Tabernacle, we want to welcome you to this church and the now, which has been a present home and place of refuge for those seeking asylum. We want to specifically welcome Mayor Olivia Chow, her office, and the media. We are here today to speak about the impact and the unfortunate realities facing our brothers and sisters since they have come here to Canada. We were determined and now grateful that one centralized platform has been created to share our hearts, our asks, and also, and more importantly, to be a voice for the voiceless. Their grievances and voices must be heard and will be heard today. It has been an experience, one that has opened our eyes, has broken our hearts to the deprivation of what's going on in our country. And so, as an organization, we were determined to not let one day pass again while our brothers and sisters sat in the rain, in the blistering heat, and treated in an inhumane way. And so we're thankful that you're here today. At this time, please make welcome Pastor Eddie. Pastor Eddie? Yeah. Talk about it.
My name is Eddie Jumba. I stand here in many capacities, but specifically, I will speak on behalf of my brothers and sisters, many from the African continent. Over the last, I guess now month, we have experienced, I think, what we have never seen in the shelter system of Toronto. I want to share with you some of the experiences that we've had. Mid-June, we learned that many of our brothers and sisters were lying on the streets of Toronto under so heavy, very many nights with heavy rains. We resolved not because we have so much, but because we believe in the principle of Ubuntu, that it doesn't make sense that one of us is happy when others are sad. So we opened up our homes in very small and meager ways, and as a result of that, I can count now almost 250 people were removed from the streets. But it's not a solution. It is a band-aid. It is a very temporary solution. I want to say that since the people came from the street to our church location, a lot of disruption has happened, and that is the truth. We are not complaining, we are just sharing an experience. Our mayor has just visited us and she was able to see how uncomfortable the people are sleeping, but they are grateful. The reason we are coming here today is to raise our voice one more time, and maybe if we need to, we'll raise it again, as many times as we need to, until action is taken. We are hoping that our mayor with her team and all the people that are good, loving people, that they will join us in the work that we are already doing. We are not here to complain. We are here to say that we have participated significantly in bringing a solution to the problem. So I'm calling upon all levels of government, our dear mayor, especially here, now that she has visited, to act on what the promises has been. We know that our brothers and sisters have not been treated with dignity. There are many questions that we have in our minds as people of African descent. We can't help to wonder if this would be the case if the people that were on those streets didn't look like us. It is an unfortunate reality that we have to talk about even in this day. But we want to thank the mayor for paying us a visit. It's a big statement of acknowledgement, and we want you to know that as you continue to push, we'll be behind you until we have a solution, a permanent arrangement, not hotels. I don't understand the logic behind hotels. A minimum of at least $3,000 is spent on each person that sleeps in those hotels. That money could be used in very different ways to create a permanent arrangement for our people to get off the streets completely. As a church, the job we took on is very heavy. So we are reaching out all of you, our mayor and the levels of government and individuals, big-hearted Canadians, to join us in solving the problem that our friends, our brothers and sisters are experiencing. Nobody needs to be homeless in Canada. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Bless you too.
Thank you, Mr. Eddie. On January 31st, 2017, City Council adopted the decision that this city of ours is a sanctuary city, where all residents have full rights to access all city services and city administrative services without fear, regardless of their documentation status. To adequately address the current emergency crisis, we, the community of kingdom-minded individuals and other like-minded constituents, would request the following of all three levels of government and our precious mayor to address what we believe to be a clear case of differential treatment premised on race. We have the following requests of our municipality, federal, and provincial government. An apology. An apology for the inhumane treatment that these men and women, our brothers and sisters, have endured in large measure. Inadequate, limited, and inappropriate housing. When you speak to our brothers and sisters who are so brave, they came here with a level of hope, a promise. And when you look into their eyes, you see their hurt and their pain. It is extremely heartbreaking. When we greeted them on that bus that day, and they were able to finally take a shower, they felt a sense of joy. They felt for the first time in a long time that they were seen. And we wanted to let them know that we see them. Number two, immediate and interim housing solutions focus on decreasing the number of people currently being housed at the Dominion Church International and Revival Time Tabernacle. Immediate interim programming to address all medical and mental health concerns for the men and women within the care of these two churches. These people are believing and still hoping after everything that they've experienced on how they've been sleeping, carrying their bags and their possessions close to them. They're still believing, as I believe, that Canada will do right by them. Specifically, Revival Time Tabernacle has always been a friend to the community, and when called upon, continues to respond with a caregiver's heart and a soldier's resolve. In spite of our resolve, we believe it is important to also highlight the realities that we currently face as a church. As you know, we felt it important and necessary to house our brothers and sisters who are faced with deplorable conditions and found themselves without housing and sleeping in the streets of Toronto. With this great problem came great sacrifice on the part of the church, which has which has faced many challenges. The regular working church has been disrupted and will soon impact on the lives of many members and families who have made plans, like getting married 2 years in advance, and their dates are coming up, to be married, as well to celebrate significant life moments within our facility. Further, the situation in its current state is becoming difficult for the men and women who we are servicing. We have pushed the electrical and hydro facilities of this church to their limit and have been running on them ongoing continuous basis with little to no reprieve. This has meant astronomical costs as well as continuous infrastructure improvements taken by the members of this church. We will continue though. We will continue, and I want to make sure that's clear. We will continue to do what is necessary so that these men and women do not have to face the conditions that they have grown all familiar with prior to our intervention in the last few weeks. And so we're asking you, those who have the power to make change, make change. Those who have a voice to speak to this, make your voices heard. Thank you. At this time, please make welcome Diane from Margaret Housing.
Yes. The lights. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Diane.
My name is Diane Walter, and I'm the Executive Director for Margaret's Housing and Community Support Services. It is exactly 2 weeks ago that I stood at 129 Peter Street, where my staff and I facilitated the movement of folks from the pavements 129 to Dominion and to Revival Time.
Thank
I
you.
really did not believe that I would stand before to you today, 2 weeks later, talking about folks who are still not in the hotel programs. I think Pastor Judith and Pastor Juma spoke eloquently about the inhumane treatment that many of our sisters and brothers have experienced. But I'd like to tell you, Margaret's Housing and Community Support Services, we're a relatively small agency, and we stepped up. We stepped up because we knew that we had to do something.
Thank you.
And what we did was that we coordinated health services, settlement services, legal services, and we also moved some folks from 1 to 29 Peter. We currently have approximately 120 folks living here at Revival Time and another 100 at Dominion. I really thought that today the media would be here to see the last bus driving out from the parking lot with the folks going to the hotel, but that is not the case. It's simply not the case. This particular situation is untenable. It is untenable because the facilities at both Dominion and Revival Time was not created for this. It really wasn't. And the folks that are here, while they're getting culturally appropriate meals and really good service, they should not be here. It's untenable for the organization that I run because we're relatively small. We cannot continue seconded staff for any time longer. You know, it's most untenable for the folks that are here. They deserve much better. They deserve to be receiving the treatment that others have received. They deserve to get the care and support from the government that they deserve. They should not be continuing to sleep on cots for another 2 weeks. We thought, actually, to be frank, and I will be frank, when we stepped in as an agency, we thought we were doing this for potentially a week, but it's now 2 weeks. And I will be frank again, Ms. Mayor, yesterday we did not have a pickup from Dominion, nor did we have a pickup from Revival Time. Folks are still here. I don't want to politicize the situation, but it could be. I'm not going to. I'm just here to provide supports. But it really is remarkable that there was no pickup yesterday. How is that possible? As I said, these folks deserve better and must receive the care and support from the government that they deserve. They should not continue to be in the church. While the churches, both Dominion and Revival Time, have stepped up, Margaret has stepped in and stepped up, it's time for us to step down and the government to step in, all levels of government, and to provide the necessary support that our folks need, and be placed in appropriate accommodation and support. We must stop this re-traumatization, because I'm not saying that they're re-traumatizing. As an agency that works in housing, the housing space, I recognize that there's a housing crisis, absolutely. But I'm appealing to those who have access to units in the community to step up and perhaps say, hey, Margaret's Housing and Community Support Services, we've got 10 units, what can we do? And then I'll reach out to the mayor and the city to say we've got some units in the community. We also asked the government to reinstate COB immediately. Margaret's is a housing hub specifically for the Black community. And without COB is a rent supplement to top folks up for market rent. And even then it's not enough, but it is better than ODSP rate and OW rate. It has ceased because it was so successful. And now we want COB to be reinstated immediately. We can do as a community and government. We have seen how the government has really stepped up for other communities. We want the government to do better for our community. We want the government to do the same for the applicant asylum seekers that they've done for other communities.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Diane. As Diane spoke about the re-traumatization, I specifically remember a young lady that came up to me, was speaking to me about having to flee from her country because of domestic violence, and that she came here to Canada in hopes to have that shelter and that refuge. And she said to be rejected by a country, or to be rejected at home, was too much to bear. There have been thoughts of suicide, but these women continue to stand. These men continue to stand with great resolve. They are really the soldiers and the heroes of this entire situation. I just want us to honor them.
Yes.
At this time, if you can make help welcome Christopher.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Christopher Kamli, Executive Director of the African Center for Refugees in Ontario, Canada. We are a refugee serving organization that supports vulnerable LGBTQ refugees right from the time they enter the country until we integrate them into the Canadian setting. Our worship, Mayor Olivia Chow, we thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to come and witness the situations that are here. However, we do have many more asylum seekers being sheltered by members of the community at different locations, including Hamilton, and waiting to be sheltered. The temporary shelter solutions initiated by Black Community Housing Advisory Table and Black North Initiatives, as well as more other refugee serving organizations and youth churches, are not sustainable at all. We need more actual, tangible actions to support asylum seekers as well as homelessness persons in Toronto. As African Center for Refugees in Ontario, Canada, we call upon all levels of government to respond to the urgent shelter needs for asylum seekers. 1, by providing necessary funding to refugee serving organizations. 2, establish a reception center equipped with mobile social and healthcare services. 3, decrease on the processing time for asylum seekers. 4, restore funding programs that were closed, like refugee hotel programs, co-hub, among others. We call upon housing and shelter funding now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of why we're having this press conference today was to allow our mayor to see the conditions that our brothers and sisters have been living in. And so she's here with us this afternoon, Mayor Chow.
It takes tremendous amount of courage and strength to pick up, leave all your belongings and your friends and relatives and flee to another country. That's who they are. They arrive here as refugees, and I want to honor their courage and their resilience. I also want, on behalf of the City of Toronto and other levels of government, to apologize the way they've been treated on the streets.
Yes.
And the lack of dignity
Yes.
that they experience.
Yes.
There's absolutely no excuses whatsoever to be at a new country, lost, both physically, spiritually, and materially. Some literally lost their belonging, their identification. That is critical for them to apply for refugee status. And that's just not acceptable, and not being able to find shelter. This is the 13-day working day for me to become as the new mayor of this city. I knew, but even before I became the mayor, I met with communities, African communities, refugees community, people that experience working with homeless, and we said to each other, we will continue to be united in our effort. Because when you're homeless, it doesn't matter whether you're refugees or you're not, whether you've been in Canada for many years. In fact, you could be indigenous people that are from this country of ours. It does not matter. And we were able, thankfully, receive some short-term funding from the federal and the provincial government, a very small amount. You asked me very clearly, how come there was no pickup? And I think I know. Because the funding is short-term, and I just looked at the number, City Council, based on how much money we have, approved 250 shelter space, hotel space. Yes, hotels are expensive, but our shelters are full. We have no choice but to rent hotels, and they're expensive. And guess what? We're full again. We're at 3,300 refugees that we have. And it amounts to about, the dollar amount that we're given is about the amount that we can spend at this time of the year. So what do? We have to have long-term solution. You heard earlier something called COP. It's the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. The City of Toronto have never contributed a penny because it's the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. But at last council, my first council, I was able to persuade city councilors to say, we are going to put in some money ourselves in order to bring in money from the provincial government. And we were able to get 7 million from the provincial government because we're putting in 7 million. Traditionally, the federal government put in 2/3 of that, and they haven't done it yet. So we're asking the federal government to please, this is a tripartite agreement, join us, partner with us. What they also have to do is to come up with a long-term plan. This is not a reception center. This is a church. It's a church where people pray, get married, have funerals, the gym, summer programs for kids, basketball, Friday nights drop-in for teenagers, all of that canceled because they are stepping up. We're incredibly grateful for the churches, the African Canadian community, the Black community, and all the generous donors through the Toronto.ca donation. Yes, thank you. Thank you. People are opening up their hearts. They're opening up their wallets. We're asking the federal government that you also need to do the same. It cannot be a short-term fix. We need a long-term solution. That small amount of money is not enough. And they have to take that responsibility. A refugee's claimant is a refugee. No matter whether you call them asylum seeker, they are a refugee claimant. And so we have a housing crisis. You heard the City of Toronto declare homelessness an emergency. We do have a housing crisis. And in the middle of a housing crisis, we also have these very brave, courageous men and women and others that are coming to Canada because of violence, persecution, based on race, class, gender, sexual orientation, based on all types of problems. And I wish the ministers, the new ministers, can come and experience the love we have here. They need to see the mattresses, the outpouring of support, but also the quiet desperation that are being faced by these refugee claimants. So I want them to come and join me and visit. Do you think it's a good idea asking them? Because this Canada, as of yesterday, has a new housing minister, Mark Miller, yeah? And it has a new housing, there was an immigration minister, okay? And our new housing minister is Sean Fraser, who was the immigration minister, right? So I encouraged them, I asked them, come join with all of us, come and visit, do it soon, because this situation cannot continue. They need their churches back. The young people need their churches back, right?
Yes.
So we are here together saying, this is a place of faith, this is a place of love, this is also a place of hope. Let's make sure we continue to have faith and hope and love and be able to treat refugees claimants coming to Canada with dignity and shelter and housing.
Thank you again, Mayor Chow and media for being here. You know, this really has been the hard work of Dominion Church International and Revival Time Tabernacle. Our community, they have stepped in to cook, clean. You know, I think of MVP Michael Kersner, I think of Global Medic, Benai Burnett, the Jewish community that has rallied against with us. And so we wanted to make sure we mention them. Our kitchen staff, they cook over 600 meals a day. One of our head chefs is here, Ricardo. And if it had not been for those who were volunteering and stepping to the plate, I don't know where we would be. So we just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that. Are there any questions? For the media.
Minister first, I'm sorry, I'm minister.
Media
Oh, I
first.
wish you guys are minister. The media first, and then I'll take it from the
The
community.
250 hotel spaces are already full. So
Yep.
that's not enough. The federal government has already rejected your request for more money. What's next?
Well, what we've heard from the rejection was a global ask that stemmed from last year. It was the money that we spend on public transit because we have to transport essential workers. That's the COVID deficit that we have. Yes, we have $1 billion, well, $1.5 billion budget deficit. Putting that aside, I was just showing my friends here that there's no money left because we're broke. City of Toronto is broke. It's not the first time you heard it. They didn't want to deal with that deficit. Fine. Okay, that's okay. We'll figure it out. But we have people daily arriving to this country. And they are arriving in Pearson, they're arriving to Toronto, to the greater Toronto area. And we need the federal government to take their responsibility seriously and help us welcome them. We used to have Ontario Welcome House, one-stop shop, gone. Yes, I know, some of you may remember, they're gone. So Red Cross are willing to step in. I met with the Canadian Red Cross representative. They are willing to step in and have the first contact and do what they do best, okay? Because it is an emergency. But they need the funding.
How much more money do you need for this specific situation to address the refugee claimants? How many more spaces?
One, we need immediate reception center, not at a church, but at a place near the airport, so that all the refugees can find the services, shelters, all in one place. Okay, that's what everybody said we need, a reception center, right? Okay, we need that. We need the federal government to help us set that up. Red Cross is ready, right? And all the service agencies are ready. Everybody's ready. They just need to step up and create a space and allow us to do it. Okay, number one. Number two, cost share with us. They call it COP. It's Canada, Ontario Housing Benefit. It's rent subsidy. Because you go into a shelter, you're stuck there. How are you going to move out? You don't have enough money because you don't have your work permit yet. You can't work. Then you're stuck in a shelter. To get the shelter as a temporary place, you need a place where you could rent, a lot cheaper than a shelter. So it's a top-up. So it's the Canadian Ontario Housing Benefit. Please join with the provincial and the municipal government and do that package. That's second. Number three, we said we need at least 160 million, if not 200 million, in order to have more long-term solutions, right? The shelter, because the shelters are full. So we got a piece of it. We need more. If we have more, thank you. If we have more, then you know what we can do? We can begin to not use hotels. Hotels are expensive. They're saying, hey, what about turning from a community center? How about dividing the space? They have a lot of really creative solutions, very grassroots solutions. That is cheaper, more effective, better for the community. But in order for us to get there, we're just right now plugging the hole because we have no space. We have to have some open space in shelters so that we can work with everyone, whether it's a new space or retrofitting new space, all of them. I've heard several solutions here, and they need us to do it. But right now we're too busy putting hotels, putting people in hotels.
Madam Mayor, the federal government has
Are
already.
arriving every day. Do you have a sense of the number that are arriving?
How many are
per
arriving
week
every
or
day?
per month, or
Well,
what the influx is? Like what?
Hey, we're not the immigration department. We have no idea how many refugees are arriving at the door. They know, okay? We don't know. All we do is we can tell you there are 300 at least homeless people showing up saying, give us some shelter. We are turning them away. At least half of them are refugees. You look right now, it's 150 refugees we are turning away every night. So, but as to how many, what's the projection? We're not the immigration department, we don't know.
Can you talk about Chrystia Freeland's comments about saying that there isn't any more funding, that Toronto needs to kind of look at it? Are those comments, would you say, would those comments be rooted in anti-blackness, considering how this federal government has looked at Ukrainian refugees, has looked at different issues and been there with even the minister coming to meet some of them at airports? Nobody from the government has been here. Do you believe that this is rooted in blackness?
Well, I'm inviting them to come and meet with everyone, okay? They asked the city to, I'm good, thank you. They're asking the city to use our reserve funds. But hang on a second. If there's a big flood, and later on if there's a snowstorm, if some of the housing, we have a huge housing stock, if the roof is leaking, we need these reserve funds in order to make sure if there's a crisis, we need to deal with it, right? So we can't use the reserve fund, that's not a prudent way to go. So putting aside what the finance minister said, we have new ministers, Minister of Housing, Minister of Immigration, Mark Miller, and Sean Fraser, please come and visit.
Sure.
Mayor Chow, the federal government says that they've already given a lot of money to Toronto, that the province has a surplus in their budget, and you should be going to Queen's Park for help with this issue. What's your response to that?
I am going to Queen's Park. That is how we got that share, that small share of the rent supplement money. Okay? We will continue to go to Queen's Park and ask for funding. But last I looked, refugees issue is a federal government issue. There is a IRPA, okay, immigration refugees law. I happen to used to be the immigration critic when I was a member of parliament. So I know what is a federal responsibility constitutionally. Refugees and immigration is a federal issue. And yes, there is some provincial responsibility for investors and that kind, but it's very small, not refugees. Refugees is really federal.
Mayor Chow, Pastor Judas mentioned the sanctuary city.
Wait, can I, one at a time? Let's get them
From the
media
community.
first.
Media questions first. Sorry. Pastor Judith mentioned the status of Toronto as a sanctuary city.
It is.
Okay.
Don't ask, just serve.
So we don't ask and just serve. We actually
I know.
turned people
I've
away.
changed that.
But do we need an investigation into this as a violation of sanctuary city policy?
Well, I'll leave it for the ombudsperson. Okay, the city of Toronto has an ombudsperson that dealt with the Kempman issue. and I'm sure that that it could be his purview to do so. Okay? Thank you
There's
for
a
that
lot
question.
of money.
Madam Mayor,
being put
yeah.
in-
One more.
If we're going to the community, we're going to start with this
Yeah,
gentleman here.
I'm speaking on behalf of the African community. I am speaking on behalf of the African. I am the president of the African Canadian Social Development Council, the umbrella organization for 110 different African community agencies. Well, to begin with, this is not the first time that we Africans are facing this crisis here in Toronto. 2017, 2018, there were influx of African refugees. Majority of them Nigerians. We contacted the city of Toronto that we wanted to work with them. They turned us away. They end up by leaving some on the streets and dumping some in some hotels. Some went through a lot of medical issues. Now we want a personal commitment from you and from the council that this will be the very last time that any group of people, we don't care where they come from, but this shameful thing should never happen again in the city of Toronto. That's one. Two, the African community is willing to work with the city so that we can absorb our brothers and sisters fast into the community. We don't want them in the hotels and in the shelters. They didn't come here to live in shelters and hotels. They came here to make a life, for themselves. And the faster we work with them, the cheaper it will be also for you guys also. You save money. You will save money. I have to be honest with you. We want to work with the city, but the city doesn't want to work with us. The red tapes are just too much, too many, too much. So my name is Kabu Asante. I'll give you my card, please.
Now let me answer Mr. Kabu's name and question. I wasn't a mayor in 2017 or 2018. As I said, I'm a new mayor. 13 days.
Well, I didn't know that.
Okay, I'm a new mayor. I've only been here for 13 days, okay? So give me time. But those of you that know me know that I do not, my principle is I see housing as a human rights. I see it as an essential rights. And I myself is an immigrant in this country, and I totally understand the need to shelter, support, and take good care of others. And that is my pledge to everyone here, and whether it's Judith or Eddie and others, I will work very closely with all of you. And I've already had 2 fairly lengthy meetings with everyone, and we'll continue to do so we can work together, because that's when we are stronger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, my voice doesn't boom as it used to.
I could hear you.
So I'm glad you can hear me. First of all, I want to thank you for coming down here and being among this group of people to give your own personal and physical support. You've been demonstrating that along the way, and I think you'll continue to do very well by staying with a problem that is.
Here.
Yes, this is a problem that the federal government should be addressing.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're not doing too great a job in handling this matter.
The question is to me, my dear.
Well, I know it is, but
Okay,
you need
okay.
to bring them into the conversation because this is what you want, right?
Yeah.
And this community is absolutely behind you, Mayor Chow,
Right.
to ensure that the federal government plays a support. We cannot stand by and have African people cross the border and come in line and sleep on the streets. It's happened, but what do we do to make sure that they're provided for at the moment? So I can't say thank you enough to the Revival Time Tabernacle for stepping forward.
Yes.
They have done something remarkable.
We answered the call.
And I've known this church from the time it was literally built. And that's all it is. And I want to thank this lady for continuing the same footsteps of our family, of our parents, and ensuring that they reach out and to serve the people that are in great need. And we will do everything in the Greenfield area to support them and what they do. I encourage you to do the same. The community, the press need to step forward and support this mayor, support the major issues that is happening here to ensure that the people here are able to survive in a country that offers them great products. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Mayor Chow. Zanina. Akandi.
Yes, right here.
Zanina Akandi.
Selena. Oh, God.
Light back on.
Yes, Selena.
Well, we come from the same beginning. We do. But I have to say that borrowing from different budget areas is not new. I know. I mean, when you're filled up and you overspent in one, it is not unusual at all to borrow from another. And I know that the city is broke. But we are the largest city in Ontario. And where the hell is the premier? We are a very productive province in Canada. And where the hell is the Prime Minister? I'm being very direct. These are my people. And I don't see anybody else living on the street and having to be rescued by churches and left. Olivia, I know you feel that. I know you want to do the right thing. But I hesitate when you talk about there has to be funds because there may be an emergency like a flood, like a fire. And I've been seeing for months that those people who have had to leave their homes because of floods or fires, the municipal buildings have been open, the schools have been open. Do you know how much easier it would be to use a school that has an auditorium, that has a space, that has a gym, that has a cafeteria? We need this. We need this, and we're willing to work with you. But we're willing to work with you to push green. We're willing to work with you to push the Prime Minister. Because I am a citizen of this country. And I am hoping that all of these people will be too. And they won't have at the back of their memory their less than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.